Welcome, everyone. Thank you for showing up today for processing UAV images with ArcGIS Pro. My name is Shane Fire, and I'm going to be presenting this workshop with Andy Lyons and my colleagues Sean Hogan and Justin Cummings. So we are going to work through these workshops. But the first thing is we're going to give you a little introduction to ArcGIS Pro and go through kind of what we're going to do today. Okay, so okay, I got to get that right. One moment. So first off, I want to make sure you all have downloaded your data. Do you have your data on your computers? Some of you may out in Zoom land. The others, it's probably on your T drive on your computer. You should have it. So if you can get to your Windows Explorer and go to your T drive, you should see a folder there with the training materials for today. Sean, what is the name of the folder? It should be called Processing UAV Imagery with ArcGIS, and it should be on the T drive. And I also want to point out that there is the PDF that shows you how to do this. The exercise materials are available online, and you can open that up on your machines and work with it there. Okay. So your data, what your data contains is you're going to have some raw imagery that you're going to process using ArcGIS Pro. You'll have an example of the final products. You'll have ground control points, an adjustment report that gets created by the stitching process in ArcGIS Pro, and you will have a map package that contains the data after adjustment. So you should have these items inside of that ArcGIS and that ArcGIS Pro folder. So in ArcGIS Pro, you can process drone data. It's not as complex as using Pix4D, and it's really good for small drone projects. So you don't have to have separate software. ArcGIS Pro will do it for you, and it's integrated right inside of ArcGIS Pro. One thing I like about ArcGIS Pro is its strong integration with this thing called the Living Atlas, which contains a myriad of data sets ranging from curated data sets from the federal government all the way down to individual layers put out by all of you. So it's actually a really nice data set to be able to pull from. So when you're using ArcGIS and you want to use some other data, you might be able to find it just by going to the Living Atlas or to ArcGIS Online itself. So today, the steps for today's exercise is we are going to explore the drone metadata. We're going to look at the drone data itself. I'm going to walk you through using the ArcGIS Pro interface. How many of you all have used ArcGIS Pro before? Okay, fair number. How many of you have used ArcMap before, ArcGIS Desktop? Okay, you're going to want to unlearn what you learned in ArcGIS Desktop because you will find yourself butting heads with ArcGIS Pro. Some of the functionality, all the functionality is there, it's just in a different place. So just know that. So not only are we going to explore the Pro interface, we're also going to learn how to use Ortho Mapping workspaces inside of ArcGIS Pro. And we're going to go through the stitching and creating of mosaics and how to create digital surfaces and terrain models. I've got to note, though, that these exercises were all worked through just last week to make sure they worked on ArcGIS 2.9.3. And of course, ArcGIS updated to 3.0 Thursday afternoon. So everything should work beautifully. One of the features that I was having a problem with on 2.9.3, they solved in 3. So I double checked that, but I didn't go through the whole process again over the weekend. So I apologize if anything doesn't work, but it should work beautifully because everything works beautifully in ArcGIS Pro. And I'll say, sure it does. So we'll see how that works. So this is kind of what we're going to go through today. You all heard from Dr. Kelly this morning where she talked about orthomosaics and the theory behind the creation of orthomosaics with control points and tie points and everything else. So what we're going to talk about today, let me get this out of the way. So we're going to go through that process. So you know what orthomosaics are. They're seamless mosaics of stitched images. They're ortho-rectified, so they're a straight down image of the data. They remove the geometric distortion and a color balance is applied. So in ArcGIS with their Orthomosaic stitching process, it does this for you. It's really straightforward and easy to use. And hopefully you agree with me by the end of this workshop. So what we're going to do today, the basic steps, we are going to create an ortho mapping workspace. You're going to add the drone images to that workspace. You then have the ability to do a quick adjustment in ArcGIS Pro. You can do a full adjustment. You can generate DEMs, both digital terrain models and digital surface models. And then you can also create the orthomosaic, and then you can analyze and visualize the data. Some of these steps take a bit of time. In general, the full adjustment can take up to an hour. On my really beefy laptop, it took 15 minutes. But most of these computers don't have that spec. So it's probably 45 minutes to an hour just to do that adjustment. So we have already done that adjustment for you. So you can skip that step and proceed beyond that. And the instructions will tell you to do that. So where are we going to process data from? This is actually a small set of data gathered in El Dorado County in the Sierra foothills of California. It's primarily a black oak, manzanita, ponderosa pine area. Sean Hogan a couple days ago mentioned it's an area that had an issue with drought and bark beetle infestation. So these areas are from that. So we should be able to pick up dead trees as well as live trees and stress trees. And if you want to know more about this area during or after the workshop, we could talk to Sean Hogan and find out more about it. So the ArcGIS activity, so as I mentioned, you should have the data downloaded, and if you haven't, please do download it and make sure you have access. And then we need to make sure you have access to the exercise guide. I will be honest with you, originally we were planning to have a printed out exercise guide for everyone in this room. We opened up the printing box from the printer and they did not print that guide. So I apologize in advance to all of you for the struggle that you may have flipping back and forth between a PDF, but there aren't that many steps in this process. So hopefully it's not that bad. Does everyone have access in this room to the guide as a PDF? No. Okay. Okay. Sean, how can we get that PDF out to the group? Okay. So if you should have gotten an email this morning, you should see that. I apologize to everyone in the room. If we can pause for a few minutes for people in the room to find the exercise, that'd be great. And if you have any questions right now, please feel free to ask, including in the chat, and we can try to address any questions. Are you all able to get access to your emails and bring that up? Hopefully that's a yes. So Andy has put a link on the screen, okay? Please go there and download that PDF, make sure you can get access to it. Thank you, Andy. So please go in and open ArcGIS Pro and start ArcGIS Pro. Now I'm going to give you a quick overview of ArcGIS Pro and its interface. So I'm going to click on the icon for ArcGIS Pro. It'll take a few seconds to open up. Yes, sir. Yes, I can. Has everyone been able to get to the link? Nope. Okay, we'll wait a few. What's that? Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah, don't forget about the edit. Sorry. So does it, what's in there work? Okay. So are you slowly finding it? Is people okay? Yes. Are we in a spot where we could continue? Should we give a few more? We can. Okay, so we're quickly going to go through the interface. I'm going to show you a little bit about how the ribbon system and the panes and the views work. And then we'll walk you through creating a image workspace. And then we'll slowly just let you go and you can start working through the materials. And then you'll be able to ask questions as it proceeds. So what you see in front of you right now is the ArcGIS Pro. This is the very first screen you will see, although you won't have all these projects that I have here already existing. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on New Project and choose Map. So New Project and Map. And you're going to click on that button. It's going to ask you to give it a name and tell it where to store your project. So in this case, you can give it any name you want. And I try to avoid under spaces. And in this case, I'm going to have you change the location of where the project is stored. And you can do the browse button or you can type it in. So I'm going to browse. I'm going to go to the C drive. And I have a folder there called DC 2022. And that's where I'm going to store this project. So I choose DC 2022. You can see it changes the location of where it's going to be saved right here. And I'm going to leave this checkbox marked. When I hit OK, it's going to create a project. And inside that project, it's going to create a file geodatabase, a new ArcGIS toolbox, and it's going to do a bunch of different location pointers and things like that and get the project all set up. So what you now see inside of ArcGIS Pro, you have a contents pane. This is where when you add your data, let's say a raster or vector data, it'll actually show up on the left-hand side of the screen over here. It also has, in this case, because we told it to open up a map project, it defaults with one map being loaded in. You can see here it's called map. And this is a map view is what this is. In ArcGIS Pro, you can only have one view showing at a time. So we have the map view showing, you can only have that showing once. So if you open up multiple maps, they'll stack up as a series of tabs, but you can only show them one at a time. And then if you look over here on the right-hand side, we have a catalog pane. And panes, you can have multiple panes at one time showing on your screen. In this case, I have a catalog pane. Then I have a contents pane, and you can have multiple. In this case, I want to point out in the catalog pane, you can see that we have one map. We have one toolbox. We have a database that it created by default. And there's even a folder location that it's automatically added, which is to your current project. So ArcGIS Pro tries to build this basic structure out for you to make it easy for you to manage your data and manage your project. One thing really nice about Pro is this ribbon. They redesigned how, if you're familiar with ArcGIS Desktop, they totally redesigned the look and feel of the application. It now has ribbons, just like Windows Office has. So you have a ribbon, and on this ribbon, you have multiple tabs. So in this case, you have a tab for project, map, insert, analysis, views, edit, imagery, and share. And under each one of those, there's a bunch of different options. So everything's grouped together underneath those tabs. It's fairly intuitive. One thing I'll add is as you add data, so if you add a vector data set, so I'm going to go in here and I'll just quickly find a vector data set. Second. I'm just going to quickly find a vector data set and a raster data set. So here is going to be a raster data set. It'll take a second. It'll add it to the screen. And I'm going to add a quick vector data set as well, just to show you the context ribbons that show up. So this right here is a vector data set that shows a boundary. It's a vector boundary. It's a polygon. When I select that layer in the table of contents on your side, what happens is you actually get a contextual ribbon that shows up just for a vector feature layer. So underneath this layer, underneath this ribbon, these are all different things you can do with vectors. So they try to make it easy. If I was to select the raster layer, the DTM, it changes to a raster layer ribbon. And now you have things you can do with rasters. So they're trying to make it easier to know what you can and can't do. Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to shift gears. I'm going to have you all create a new project, follow the guide. And have you created project in here yet? Let me know when you have. So you're going to start ArcGIS Pro. You're going to start a new map project, give it its name, its location, and hit create. So have you all been able to create a map in a project with a map in it? Okay. So then the next step in the process is you need to create an ortho mapping workspace. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up to imagery. Under imagery, you're going to click on the far left, you're going to click on new workspace. Does everyone see that? So it's going to be new workspace, upper left corner, underneath the imagery tab. So when you click on new workspace, what's going to happen is it's going to open up a workflow that you can follow for creating a new ortho mapping workspace. So you're just going to follow the instructions in your guide, give it a name, and you can call it whatever you like, or give it exactly what it says in the guide. I'm just going to call it right now, Stitching Workspace. I don't get very imaginative on my names and titles sometimes. And then fill in the description. And you're going to do drone. The sensor type is a drone, and the base map you could choose topographic, and there are different options underneath there. I'm going to leave it at topographic. And then I'm going to hit next, and it's going to go to the image collection. At this point, you're going to choose the images that you want to load. And you can see you can choose cameras. You can choose the Ultim or the Red Edge if that's what the data is, or the data are, or you can just keep it at generic. You're then going to go in and say add, and you're going to add the image collection. Yes, sir.
Are you a DroneCamp presenter?
I thought so.
Can you make
I wasn't able to.
who's DroneCamp presenter? Oh, that could be in the yeah, see if it looks. No, can you try one more time? I'm not this. I think it's the machine in the other room.
Oh. So then you're going to go to your data under, and you're going to find the raw imagery folder and map and hit OK. Oh. I'm sorry, what's that? Yes. Yes. You should be able to see the recent files. You should see the training accounts there. Okay. So are you all making progress and following the instructions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, there should be a, let me find it. It should be, oh no, that's not it. One second. The PDF should be called Processing UAV Images with ArcGIS Pro 2022. Yes, ma'am. Really? Okay. I think there might be another layer. So what we're hearing is that some people are having problems finding the raw imagery folder. Let's see. Oh, so I'm on level 2 deep. So in my case, I have the stitching for ArcGIS Pro. Inside there, there's a raw imagery folder. And it looks like there's another folder in there called map. Don't go into that map folder. Stay out at the raw imagery layer level. And then if you do that and you hit OK, ArcGIS Pro will find all your images and it'll list it on the right-hand side, as you can see here. And then if you look down, you can see it's loading the information from the EXIF data. It's assuming that it's UTM zone 10 north, WGS 84. And it also has an assumption of what the camera is. It's reading that from the EXIF. Hit next. Yes. Okay. Okay. So one thing to note, when you download that folder or it's on your T drive and you see that that imagery folder for stitching, it's probably a zip file. So be careful and unzip it. So right click on the file and say extract all, and it should put it into its own directory. And then you should be able to get access to those data. So then once you add the data into the Orthomosaic workspace, you hit finish. And then ArcGIS Pro is going to interrogate the data and build out the workspace. And then you should be able to continue to follow the instructions in your guide, do a quick adjustment, do a more refined adjustment, add GCPs and so forth, which are called out in your guide. So with that in mind, before I let you loose and let you start playing with the software, are there any questions? I know there's some questions here in the audience. How are we doing online, Justin?
People online, helping each other answer questions.
Okay. So once you create the workspace, you'll see what you see on the screen right now. And then go to to continue with the steps in the guide, you will go to the Ortho Mapping tab, and this is where you'll find all the different features. Okay, any questions, Justin? Yes, someone over here has a hand up? No? Okay. People online? Any questions? Everything going okay?
Just clearing results for a while and then nothing. Not getting pop-up.
Okay. Someone just mentioned that when they try to click a photo point to get a pop-up of the imagery, that they're not getting any results. And if you see that, what you need to do is actively select the camera locations in your table of contents, select it with your left mouse button, which then makes that the active layer. Once it's the active layer, you should then be able to click on one of the yellow photo frames, and then it'll show you the imagery. So please give that a try if you get stuck, and that should solve the issue. I'm sorry, what is that? That is, it shows the question is, what is the footprints layer? And that is the outline of every image in that image collection.
For, someone says when they're clicking on it, it doesn't come up.
Yeah, they need to click the layer itself and then do that.
Did you tell them that?
I just did.
Okay, I was helping someone.
Yeah, I said it probably when you were helping them.
I'll take care of the online stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Where is the adjust button that you're not supposed to click? That is a good question. So if you click on the stitching workspace in the upper left-hand corner in the contents pane, when you click on that, you'll see the Ortho Mapping toolbar. And you click on the Ortho Mapping toolbar, and right below that is the infamous button, the adjust button, that you should not touch. You can do the adjustment, but it's going to take a while. It could take up to 45 minutes to an hour to do that adjustment. That's why we're asking you not to do it right now. So with the, once again, someone asked where that is. If you select the stitching, the mosaic workspace that you created in your table of contents, you will then see the Ortho Mapping tab show up in the ribbon. And underneath there, you'll see adjust.
No, it's okay.
Mhm. So there are a few optional steps coming up. You could go further into refining your adjustments. You can do ground control points, selecting points and updating that with the images on the ground. That takes a bit of time, but you can. Once you do that, you have to do the readjustment again. So that takes time. So we actually provided a map package that you can open up inside of your project, and it'll load that pre-adjusted layer so you can continue the process if you want. And to do that, what you would do is go to that folder and you open up the file, and the file is going to be called, that's not KML. So if you go to final products, there should be a PPK, but there is not a PPK. I'm sorry, you'll see holding pen, RPG, post adjust, PPKX, and that is a project package. It'll open up ArcGIS Pro again, and everything will have been done for you. Okay, so if you want to skip that adjustment phase or adjustment step, you would just open that file, the PPKX. And I'll do that for y'all can see. So if you don't do the adjustment and you want to see the results, open that project package. And then what you'll see is, once again, you'll see an ortho mapping project. You can see that here. You have an ortho mapping workspace, but everything's already been handled. It's been adjusted. Ground control points have been used to do the adjustment. And now you get down to the steps of creating your DTM, your DSM, and your Orthomosaics. So at this point, if you open up that project package and you were to go up to Ortho Mapping, 1 second, please. They've changed something. Where is that? One second, please. So what I recommend is y'all play a little bit, see what you can do. It's getting to be about 10 minutes to 3. So feel free to go through the instructions on your own. Let us know what you find, what works, what doesn't work. And we're here to answer questions tomorrow and Friday. Yes. Okay. So the remaining steps are, once you have that adjustment done, you can then go to the product tab, and you can actually generate your digital terrain model. You can generate your digital surface model as well as your Orthomosaic. Those are the final steps of doing the Orthomosaic process, and you save those out as either cloud raster format or a TIFF or another raster format that you can continue to use in your analysis.
So now it's PDF. Yeah, short version of it.
Yeah.
It does not include the appendices.
Ooh, good point.
We will that other PDF.
Okay. I was just told that the version of the guide that you are looking at right now does not contain the appendices, which really walk you through the nitty-gritty of doing the ground control points and doing the full adjustment. So after this session, we will make sure that we send out the fuller length version, so you have the ability to do that on your own. So with that, there's going to be questions, and I see a question right there. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. That's really good to know. So we'll look into that and see what the issue is, and see what requirements there are. Yeah, we'll let you know for sure. We can follow up with the team on that. Okay, with that, are we in a spot we should probably pause, let people think about what's next, and get ready for the next session?
If you're doing the next ArcGIS Pro workshop in 10 minutes, just stay right here.
Yeah. So Andy just said, and I'll repeat it, if you're doing the next ArcGIS Pro workshop at 3 o'clock, it's going to also be in this room. So please feel free to stay right here, and we'll be prepared to start up at about 3 o'clock.
Announce to the Zoom people, though, it's a different Zoom link.
Oh, yes. So for everyone knows who's on Zoom, if they're going to be staying on for the ArcGIS Pro mapping and analysis workshop, it's a different Zoom link. It is not the same Zoom link, just for your information. It should be on the agenda.
It should be in their emails that they received.
They should have. You should have received an email this week explaining that there's another session for workshops, and that would be the one you would use. Yes, sir. Do you want to do it or can I? He said if you can come over and have a look real quick. Okay. Got it. Please do. Yes, ma'am. Regarding the question online about whether it's normal to see what you're seeing about lines and glitches in between the photos. I don't know if that's normal. I did not see that in the past when I've done this workshop. I'm wondering if that's something that's coming in with the new version of ArcGIS Pro 3.00. So that is a good question. Hey, Max, your question about creating DTM Orthomosaic, if that's something different than ArcGIS Pro, let me show you real quick. So in ArcGIS Pro, if you go to the Ortho Mapping tab, you will see the option to generate your products. Right up here underneath product, you can do a multiple products or DSM, DTM, and Orthomosaic. For some reason right now in my example, they're grayed out, but you usually have the ability to generate those products right from ArcGIS Pro. But not the point cloud. I believe that might actually be part of the output. It's just buried a little bit.